Welcome to the STEM Road Podcast. I'm Jerry Cabrera, President and CEO of Elevate Southwest, and this podcast host. In each episode, we'll talk with an industry expert who shares their career experiences and insights, and we'll also introduce a student who is starting their own journey in the same or similar field, providing a fresh perspective on the future of the industry. Our mission is to uncover the diverse pathways to success in post-secondary education, providing inspiration and guidance for anyone interested in STEM careers. So join us in the STEM Road as we explore the remarkable journeys of those paving the way and elevating the future of STEM.
Welcome to the STEM Road podcast. This is our first episode. You guys, if you've been watching and listening for a while, you might notice that Jerry is not here today, my co-host, but today I have a new co-host, Arlyn, Galaviz.
Well, hello, everyone. It's so good to be here.
And then we have two new guests with us today. Thank you, Josh, and thank you, Amanda, for joining us. This is going to be a unique episode. Usually for a lot of our episodes, we kind of have a central theme, and we were even discussing this before. We don't really have a central theme for this episode, but I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation because in other episodes, when we focus on a specific career, usually those people that are joining us, they somehow already know that that's the career that they wanted to get into. And I think that both of you, at least Amanda, from what we've read online, you'll tell us a bit more about your story, but from what we've read online, you've kind of shifted, and it's been really interesting to see the different, career paths or, I don't know, help me out, Arlyn. What
the versatility you've had to kind of bounce around between different fields.
Yeah.
So,
and Josh, he'll also talk a little bit about, his plans and where he's at right now. But I think this is going to bring a really interesting conversation between both of you. So anyways, I'll let you both introduce yourself. Amanda, if you want to go ahead and start.
Yeah, well, I just want to say thank you again for having me, for having me represent Leeward on the podcast too. Very, very excited to connect with you all today. So, Amanda Koonjbeharry, born and raised in Minnesota, but I currently live in Dallas, Texas. I've been here for about 3 years, so it's been really good, really hot also, but I enjoy it. And my background, so I ended up going to the University of Minnesota. I did my undergrad there and my master's programs. In my undergrad, I studied family social science, so I got my bachelor's in that. And then I ended up getting a master's in social work and a master's in public policy. So excited to kind of talk to you all about how that transition from social work to policy kind of played out and how I'm now find myself in renewable energy as well. So that's me.
That is quite a shift between Minnesota and Dallas.
And then somehow Yuma, all there.
All right, Josh, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, it's very diverse. So hi, my name is Josh Lopez, and it's really fun to be on the podcast because typically I am behind the scenes on the decks that the audience can't see, recording, checking the audio, doing the editing and the graphics. So it's definitely a nice change of pace. I recently graduated from Cebolla High School in this year, 2025, and I was born and raised in Yuma, but much like Amanda, I'm going to have a very diverse shift because I will be attending the University of Chicago in this fall.
That's so exciting.
Congrats.
I can't wait for you to go there. Send us pictures and tell us all the fun things that you're going to be doing.
I'll send you guys little postcards.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and we'll go visit you, but not in winter.
Anytime but winter. You guys can come in the spring where it's all nice, flowery, green, and beautiful.
Cold.
Don't tell me that. I'm born and raised in Yuma, so I'm gonna experience a lot of change with that.
Yeah.
And just to get started, we like to start with something kind of fun, a little icebreaker. You guys both gave a good introduction of your either professional or academic backgrounds, but what is something that if somebody just doesn't read your resume, right? Something that would not be on your resume that's either like a fun fact or something that not a lot of people might know just by reading your resume.
Yeah, I love this question. And one thing, growing up in Minnesota, I learned to really love fishing. So that's something I love to do. My dad taught me when I was really young and had like a really cute Barbie fishing rod. I was actually I was actually back there last week and had a chance to go fishing with him. Nothing bit our hook, unfortunately, so it was really sad. But it was just nice to be able to cast a hook out there because I don't do a lot of fishing here in Dallas. So that's something when you look at me or people get to know me, they don't really expect that, but it's something really fun I like to do.
Definitely. How about you, Josh?
For me, well, it's nothing super hidden, but it's something that more of my friends know, but obviously it's not going to be in my resume anywhere, but maybe it should be. But I would definitely say that I am a huge cat dad. I love cats.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that whole fact.
My family has done like a lot of fostering of kittens, so I've done my fair share of, working with all the little babies, and it's kind of a win-win because I mean, I love cats, especially kittens when they're small and cute. They're just playing 24/7. But I currently have four cats. We have one adult male cat, and we recently picked up on three little kittens
Oh.
so that he wouldn't be alone and, have permanent buddies instead of just foster kittens coming in and out.
Yeah, you're gonna miss them, huh, when you leave?
A little too much, maybe.
Too much. Oh my
Son.
It's okay because my mom is gonna FaceTime me, but just for the cats.
Mom, stop talking. I want to talk to
I
you.
want to talk to.
All right. Well, so with Josh, just a bit of context. I know he mentioned that sometimes he's behind the scenes. So to give the listener some context about that is Josh actually interned with one of the startups that we have at Elevate Southwest, so with PowerJewel. And PowerJewel is actually one of our like resident startups. So they're in our office, which allows us to really get to know his interns while they're there. And then just casually having a conversation one day, he told us that he, taught himself how to edit, professional quality videos. I might add, not just like
high level.
Yes, definitely not just your average making little cute videos on Canva or anything like that. He knows like coding behind the scenes of just like video editing. So we thought that would be a great opportunity to help us on our team as well. And that's how, and also to, excuse the pun, but to elevate our podcast, to elevate our podcast. And so that's how we brought him in. But speaking of internships and getting professional experience at a younger age, I'd like to hear from you, Amanda, if there were any types of experiences that you had growing up that really helped shape your current career path.
Yeah, that's good question. I appreciate that question. So I would say from a pretty young age, I kind of knew that I wanted to go more into social work. The way I define social work is it's kind of that heart work. You're very connected to people. You are using yourself kind of as that tool to impact change. And through my own personal life experiences and kind of what my family and I were going through at the time, it really was kind of the catalyst for me at that young age to just want to be of service. And so social work was kind of that avenue and pathway. And then I was pretty young when I graduated undergrad. I was 19 and I started.
Wow.
Yeah, I was really young. No business, like I didn't know what I was doing, but I ended up becoming an employment counselor and like 19. And I was working with families in Minnesota who were receiving Minnesota's welfare benefits, which was called MFIP. And I had an extremely mixed caseload, we called it. And so I was working with families who some were experiencing homelessness actively, some were kind of in that stage where they got an eviction notice, some were staying in a shelter, and kind of the whole gamut of the human experience. And some families were experiencing a lot of domestic violence too, and other safety concerns. So I was in this really difficult situation. So I learned a lot in that job, being really young. But I had a chance to testify at the Minnesota State Legislature on a bill that was going to impact the families I worked with directly. And that for me was incredibly pivotal. Being able to testify in front of a legislature as a young person, just that experience in and of itself was scary, but also incredible. And being able to
Mhm.
share the stories of families that I was working with. But that hearing was so lively. There was literally a activist group that was like rallying in the hearing, in the meeting, in the chambers. And so to see that, and then it was the first time I ever had been quoted in an article in a newspaper.
Mhm.
So I got asked about, what I was sharing. And again, like 1920, I was super young.
Mhm.
But what that did was it really impacted me and in the way that I understood policy and how policy impacts families. And so that was huge for me. I literally went into public policy because of that experience and a few other ones, but just seeing the way that it impacted people I was working with and their children. Yeah.
So I love that you shared that. And again, just because we've had the opportunity to get to know Josh these past couple of months, while he was interning at Power Jewel, I know that you've also, talked about not being really certain what path you want to take. You have a lot of different, skills and different passions. I know to some aspect you've mentioned like public policy.
Mhm.
So I kind of want to hear from Josh, just hearing, Amanda with what she just shared. Where are you at right now, I guess, in terms of your future plans and what you would like to do?
Yeah, so I mean, I gotta say, like, Amanda's story is something that resonates really closely because I love STEM, I love engineering, but I always kind of figured, as I went through high school, I kind of figured, I don't know if it's the right thing for me, but I still absolutely love it. And Amanda, I loved hearing about your personal, like, campaigning at that legislative, and it really hits somewhat close to home because while I have not, like, done campaigning or like advocated at the legislative level at like Arizona or at the local level. I have been to Washington, D.C. about twice where I advocated for Perkins funding and spoke to Congress people like Eli Crane, which is one of our representatives here in Arizona, and then also Senator Mark Kelly. But I also feel like it's really interesting to hear that your work has directly affected people, but also how the work that you do is something that you enjoy, that you like to see how it affects people and that your work has meaning. But I have recently been thinking of pursuing something similar. I don't know about pursuing public policy or what specific major I do want to go in. But I think just based off of what I've done in high school and more about what my passions are leaning, I do believe that I do want to do something within the social service realm, but still also be somewhat related to STEM at the end of the road, because at the end of the day, I love STEM, I love CTE, I love technology and what it does for our world.
Yeah, I think it's also important to kind of lean into your natural talents, and that's something that we see a lot with the students. When you're 18, 19, and you're trying to figure it out, what you select sometimes seems like it's going to be the right path, but what you find is that your natural talents, your natural abilities are going to come out as you do things, as you start working in different fields. And then I think one thing to keep in mind is staying really open to different experiences, because you really never know what's going to be your superpower. I know that you started in social work, but then right now you're doing, public relations. And so that's not something that you kind of went into going into the school, Amanda, but you kind of landed there. And I think it's because of your natural abilities. So staying open is something that we've seen a lot with the students, and we really recommend that pathway and that mindset, I think.
I want to just bring it back again to, the importance of internships or getting exposure to things at a young age. Josh, what sparked your interest in applying for the internship program through Elevate Southwest, and then specifically, your internship with Power Jewel?
Oh, I love that question. So I had a really funny situation for my second semester of high school, because at the end of my first semester is when I received my full ride to the University of Chicago. And in my head, I was kind of thinking, well, what's the point of continuing like with my classes? Because by that time I was already like 3 credits over the graduation limit.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, maybe I can step away from the academic side and go more into a little real world experience. So come second semester, I didn't have any classes. I only had what we called diversified cooperative education. And basically what it meant for our district is that it's for students that have gone through so many CTE classes that they're ready to try and go gain some of the basic work opportunities. So I remember back in September, November, it had been shared with that program within our district about Elevate Southwest and all the internship opportunities they had. And I was like, whoa, I love this so much. It sounds like an amazing concept, but my responsibilities at the time were way too much. So I'm like, I can't do this. It seems amazing. But come second semester, I don't have any more academic work. Some of my extracurriculars are kind of like going down a little because it's not as active as it used to be in first semester. So I went back to that post and applied to Elevate Southwest. Now, as for interning with Power Jewel specifically, it was kind of a funny process because I remember in my interview, I had talked a lot about being interested in sustainability because I feel like as a young person, I've gone through the education system hearing about climate change at least once a year. No matter what science class that I've been in, it's been something that's been brought up. So, and then also I did a college course where one of our papers was a research paper. And for that research paper, since it was any topic, I decided to go into write a paper about solar energy, how it's beneficial, what it could do for our future, etc. So I remember telling Melina about all of this, and she was like, hey, you know what? There's someone right outside this window on our left here that runs a sustainability company, and that was being Power Jewel. So obviously, like, I got the bare minimum there, but after our interview had concluded, we had gone over and we talked to Brett, and he told me all about what his company was doing. And in a good way, it was not what I expected. So Power Jewel is working on magnetic flow batteries, and at the time I was like, what is this? This is like, this isn't what I was expecting, because typically when I think of sustainability, I had thought of like, oh, solar energy, wind power, hydrogen energy. I had never thought of something so complex as a magnetic flow battery. So not only was it something that kind of aligned with what I wanted to do, it also would be an opportunity that opened up a new realm within the sustainability field, and that would help me learn more about what really goes on.
Great. I know, so with Amanda and how we got connected as well, it's also kind of a funny story. I remember being in Jerry's office when you called, and you know, you guys ended up having a really nice conversation. He hung up and he was really happy that you had called. And so I know we don't have to get, you know, too technical about it, but I do think this is a good moment for you to just explain, you know, Leeward Energy to us and to our audience, and then you can also dive into a bit of what your role at the company looks like.
Yeah, I would love to. So, Leeward Renewable Energy, it was founded in Texas in 2003. So, we're definitely a growing company, and it's been really cool to be there over the past 2 years to kind of see the expansion. But we have about 30 wind, solar, and battery storage projects across the US. And these are utility scale size projects too. So our goal is to have about 10 gigawatts by 2028. So that's kind of our trajectory that we're on. That's a lot of projects and power that we're looking to achieve. So it's been really neat to be a part of that or a part of the company and doing that. And then my role specifically, so I was brought on 2 years ago, and I'm a part of the public affairs team. So I'm one of the public affairs managers. And my portfolio, it's pretty unique. I'm the only one on the team that kind of serves all of our construction projects as well as our operational fleet. So we have several projects that are currently under construction or are about to be in construction. And again, that's wind, solar, battery storage. And then we have our operating portfolio, which is around 30 projects or so, give or take. And those again, wind, solar, battery storage across the US. So a lot of my job I would say a couple of different things, but I'm in a lot
Yeah.
of meetings all day. That's definitely number one. So, Joshua, get ready for that. I'm kidding, but
But not.
yeah, yeah, or not. You both understand. But yeah, I'm collaborating a lot with teams, and that's why a lot of my time is in those meetings. But my kind of role and responsibility is really looking at how can we be a good neighbor and a good steward in the communities that we call home. So whenever we're working on a construction project, I'm really trying to ensure that, if the community has a question or a concern, how can they get a hold of us? And then are we responding to them in a timely manner? So I'm like mostly the one kind of seeing those requests, responding to folks. So really wanting to be, you know, available to the community as a neighbor. And then we're looking at to what are some of the contributions that we can make in this community. So not just the benefits of having utility scale solar, wind, or battery storage in the community and the economic benefits, but how can we sponsor a local fair that might be really important to that community? How can we invest in amazing programs like Elevate Southwest and the awesome work that you all are doing?
Oh, we're
So it's
so happy
really,
about that.
yeah, thanks. Me too. And this podcast happened, right?
Yeah.
That, but it really is like me looking at what's going on in a community, connecting with people who are movers and shakers, local elected officials, like really understanding what's happening on the ground. And then, like Jerry and I, just literally picking up the phone and calling him and introducing myself. And sometimes people think I am like a scam caller, and sometimes people. I have so many stories. They see my last name and they're like, click. But sometimes people like Jerry answer, and then we're able to strike up just a really awesome conversation, and it leads to, long-term partnerships, which is what this is about. And we're in communities for 30 plus years. So that's really the goal is how do we build these long-term relationships? And that's a huge part of what I do.
Yeah. Two questions for you. When you were going to school, did you ever think you were going to end up in the role that you are doing right now? One. And then number two, not a question, but a thought. I love that you guys want to answer questions in the community because I feel like customer service
Yeah.
it is inaccessible at some point. It feels that way. And so I love that you guys are making sure that you answer questions, that you're accessible to the community. But yeah, did you ever think that I'm gonna be in, this is the field that I'm gonna be doing in and I'm gonna have such a dynamic and unexpected role?
No, never, never, never. So I think it goes to, as you're talking about kind of what's next for you and graduating high school and
Yeah.
college, and it is so okay not to know what is next. If I stayed rigid, I would never have ended up in renewable clean energy. I never would have thought that this was the path for me. And what I love the most about it is that I'm literally learning something every day. Like
Oh yeah.
half the time I don't know what I'm doing, but
Oh yeah.
I'm figuring it out, right? And I think that's
Yeah.
a misconception. Like, I remember when I was young and I saw 30-year-olds and I'm like, yeah, you know what you're doing, or 20-year-old professionals. And now I'm
That
in my,
felt old
Yeah,
then.
we can relate.
yeah, and I'm in my mid to late 30s and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, Like, I'm just trying to figure it out. And that's what you do. And stay curious is the biggest thing. So, never thought
Yeah,
I'd be here,
sometimes I've
but
left meetings and I'm like, you guys, you know that I don't understand what we just talked about, right?
all the time.
Yeah, I want to be known that I don't understand what we just talked about.
Yep.
And that brings up two points. One, earlier today we were having an IT meeting and we had these
Yeah.
two interns that are helping us out that, obviously they are explaining all of this technical stuff to us. And I just kept glancing over at Arlyn and being like, okay, am I the only one that's completely lost? Like,
Right.
I feel like they're speaking another language. And then at one point in time, we were like, okay, Josh, I think it would be because he's going to leave soon, right? He's going to go to the University of Chicago. So we were like, we need to also be trained on video editing, podcast producing, because what are we gonna do when Josh leaves?
We're gonna hire somebody else.
Basically, that was the conclusion, because he did try to train Arlene and I, and
I was like, Jerry, I would love to learn, but it's too late for me.
Yeah, yeah, right?
We have
Like,
to hire somebody.
kids can only
our
have
brains are
certain-
formed already. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. But something that I love, hearing you talk about all of these, experiences and career shifts, the unexpectedness that, the curveballs that life will throw at us sometimes. I can say just from knowing, the ones here at this table, like I feel all of us have also gone through that to a certain extent. We've all worn many different hats. I completely agree with you in the sentiment of learning every day and sometimes figuring it out. You got to witness that at the beginning of this podcast as we were trying to set up how to, set up the Zoom version of the podcast in our new podcast studio. So it's a learning. We're constantly learning, and that's part of the excitement. I think I don't get bored.
Yeah.
What we do.
One of the things that we were talking about earlier was like, what is the underlying theme here? And I think we came up with the versatility for both of you. You guys you're going into the field and you know a lot of things and you want to learn even more things. And so the same for you, Amanda. And so I think that right here, this table and with you, all of us just, I feel, are open to the ideas. I know that for me personally, I always say yes. I no matter if I don't know, I always think if I don't know, I will learn and I will figure it out.
Yeah.
And that has opened so many opportunities for me, constantly. And that you're gonna go to a completely unknown place. When I graduated high school, I went to Boston, and it was the biggest culture shock, Josh. It was like, sometimes I would think, are we even in the same country right now? Like, it was so surprising. So just staying open to all the experiences is gonna open up so many new things that you probably have never even known, so.
And I know you learned a lot at Power Jewel, right? You talked a little bit about how when you came in for your interview, and then I was kind of like, well, as you were talking, I was already in my mind, the wheels were spinning, and I was like, okay, I think a good placement could potentially be Power Jewel. So I want you to talk about, what were some of the skills that you learned throughout your internship? Just kind of overall, just in case there's other students out there that in the future might consider an internship, what can they expect from interning either with Power Jewel or just like a startup in clean technology?
Oh, that's a really good question. So I'm going to talk about my personal experience at Power Jewel, and I will say that I definitely learned a lot of diverse things, and not everything had to be related to STEM or sustainability. But I know like one of the biggest projects that I took on there was creating the scaled down model of the 40-foot container for Brett to have on his desk, like as a 3D printed model. That way he can show guests what he's talking about. And I think just through that alone, it's creating a piece of CAD 3D model is really difficult, even when you have some of that high school experience, especially when you're in a startup environment. And that there's not always anyone that you can rely on where you can just straight up go to them in your office and be like, hey, how do I do this? Can you teach me a little bit of that? Because, sometimes startups, in particular Power Jewel, have people all over the country. And at the moment, it's only me, Brett, and then the previous intern, Tyler, which actually ended up being one of the biggest helps on the project.
Shout out to Tyler.
Tyler.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of CAD skill, I would definitely say research and critical thinking, because of course I had to look up the dimensions for the 40-foot container, but then as I go to 3D print it, I realized, hey, just because I scaled it down to this dimension doesn't mean it's going to work, because now the hinges are so tiny that when I touch them, they just explode and go all over the 3D printer. So it was definitely like a lot of trial and error and thinking critically about like, what sizes need to be, how is it going to work, what are the angles? But outside of CAD software, I would definitely say definitely communication skills was very prominent. One of the bigger events that happened at Power Jewel while I was there was the RFP that they started with the city of Pasadena. And because of that, we took about maybe 2, 3 weeks away from the CAD stuff and focused directly on the RFP because I was helping with that. And a large part of me being an executive assistant was emailing people, setting up meetings, and just telling them what needs to be done for the RFP, since there's not really much that I can do in there. I mean, there's stuff about IT stuff that I don't even understand. It's like that deep of IT stuff. There's financials, there's the technology drafts, and it's like I don't understand any of this. But what I can do is I can look at what's needed in the RFP, read that like 70-page document, give out the criteria, like things as small as formatting, fonts, to what needs to be needed and what's most important. So definitely communication skills played a large part in that. And I think lastly, I would definitely say the ability to manage my time properly, because I would say being in a startup environment, there isn't always going to be something to do. Brett's not always going to be there to give me something to do, but it's about realizing that I also have a little bit of freedom, and that little bit of freedom is what will give me the chance to take more out of that internship, because I feel like utilizing my time properly within the internship will make or break how much I take out of it, because I can either do a little bit of busy work, or while I'm at the internship, I can continue to work on something CAD related, research more about sustainability or the magnetic flow batteries in general.
So being proactive.
Being proactive,
That
yep.
autonomy to come up with ideas and projects on your own, and really delve into what the other projects that were maybe not necessarily assigned.
Yeah, and it paid off, because by the time my internship was coming to a close, that's when I had the most time to work on that 40-foot container project. But luckily it didn't end up being as heavy bearing as a project as it was, because while I was doing stuff with the RFP and other stuff at the beginning of the internship, anytime I would have those little breaks, I would begin doing itty little bits of the model that ended up helping during that last stretch at the internship.
So I wanted to also talk about, what skills you think have really helped advance your career path, Amanda.
Yeah, I would say similar to Josh, I was really glad that you talked about communication. Communication is, I feel like, the lifeline to life. I feel like I've had to have difficult conversations recently, just in general in life, and it's just such an important skill. But more specifically, when it comes to kind of my professional career path, I would say I think I've been successful at pivoting and kind of navigating different industries because I've been able to communicate with different teams and really understand and respect how other people communicate. So not just how what's comfortable for me, but really trying to understand what's important to them and how can I speak in their language. And so, in relationships, they talk about love languages and, how do you speak to your partner? But I think that's an important concept that kind of transcends into the professional world too, of really understanding like who are your key partners in that environment and how do you learn their style and how do you communicate to them in a way that will resonate?
Yes.
So that has been insanely helpful. I was going to say too, that staying curious piece. I love, what I think we've been talking about of saying yes, kind of trying new things, but also having like discernment to know when it's time to say no and to know when something is no longer serving you. That definitely takes time, I think, to hone that skill or to really listen to that intuition and to know like I'm going down this path in my career, something about it is not feeling right. I need to listen to that and I need to figure out what's the pivot. And it may not be clear right away, but at some point, you'll be able to discover that. So that's been helpful. And then I would say with more of the direct service work that I did, I had to learn early on in my 20s, boundaries are everything. And not just with family and friends, but at work too. And so, like in that job, it was really stressful, and I had to learn that I wasn't responsible for what happened per se in people's lives, or like I wasn't that important in the grand scheme of their life, and I had
Yeah.
to really acknowledge that. And what that did for me was it helped me put boundaries in place that, I got to take care of me to be able to show up for other people. And so I think that really is important in the workplace too.
And I feel it's so important to highlight that because if you think about it, oftentimes we're going to be at work more than we're going to be at home. And so if we don't develop those boundaries or determine what those boundaries are for us, it'll take more time. Work will take more time than your family, friends, and everything else. And so, yeah, I think that's super important, especially when you're young and you want to prove yourself and you want to say, yes, I want to learn. I think staying open, but figuring what those boundaries are. But I feel like you got it down, Josh. I feel like you're gonna I feel like when you're setting us up and you're like, Arlene, stop talking and talk now.
Yes.
I heard that. That was good.
I agree.
Think you have it down.
I feel like it's always somewhat a little difficult to kind of set certain boundaries because sometimes it can be like it can feel rude, but like you also have to accept like it's probably for the better at
Yeah.
times.
Yep.
Because maybe like good example of how you're just talking about is I'm trying to set up things and we're taking up a little bit of extra time from Amanda
Yeah.
since we're trying to set up the podcast. I'm just like, Arlene, I need you to be a little bit quiet so I can see if this
Yeah.
works, etc. I mean, it applies everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
it applied during college whenever one time I was sick and Brett is a really big talker. Love that about him because the workday just goes by a lot quicker since
Yeah.
we talk a lot. But while I was sick, I was like, Brett, I'm not feeling too good. Like, I would appreciate if you can just like talk a little less because it's like I just have this headache and I'm trying to do work. I'm like multitasking 3 different things at once, and it's like, yeah, absolutely, no problem. And then also, I remember at the end of that day, he set a boundary and said, "Hey, if you're still sick by tomorrow, like please don't come into the office. I have a weaker immune system. I'm old. I don't want to catch anything and then be sick for like a few weeks." And I'm like, that's completely understandable. So even though it's sometimes a little jarring or scary to think to set up a boundary, I think at the end of the day, it actually does both parties a really good pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a perfect example. But yeah, I think you've got it down, Josh. You definitely would be, even with me, if I'd help you with a project, you're like, okay, I have to leave at this time, so let's get this part done because I gotta go.
Tries 3 things today.
Absolutely. So I mean, looking ahead, what are some things that are, that you're excited about, whether it be, it could be something with Leeward, renewable energy, or in your own career. What are some things moving forward that you're really excited about, Amanda?
Yeah, I would say with Leeward, I'm excited, and just career-wise in general, I think I'm excited for kind of what's next with my career. So, really thinking about, Josh, it's incredible to see kind of where you are in your career exploration and journey, and just remembering too that like leadership skills, understanding how to navigate difficult conversations and challenging times and uncertain times. This is a very uncertain time, and in this industry, things are kind of changing rapidly for us. So I'm excited to really expand and hone my leadership skills too, at Leeward, but also I see leadership as broader and kind of in your life in general, and how do you show up in those different spaces, in these different roles. So I'm really excited about that, and wanting to see kind of how I elevate.
We got
It's a
it.
good
We
word.
got
It's a good word. But how I elevate, just even in my own kind of professional career too with Leeward. I'm excited for speaking opportunities in the industry, and just kind of bringing the experiences that I've had in other industries to the renewable space and supporting other people, young professionals, women in the industry, and just trying to be, somebody to open doors and kind of help pave the path if I can, but also to learn from mentors too. So looking forward to that. Yeah.
You were, if I'm not mistaken, you were in Phoenix not too long ago at a speaking, right? You were on a panel at an event. I think it was, I don't know if it was clean tech or I think I saw something
Yeah.
like that on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's so funny. So, my friend and I, she also works at Leeward. We were sitting on the stage. We were at the ACP Clean Power conference, and we were trying to manifest speaking at a conference. So that's why we took that
Nice.
picture.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I will be speaking soon in August at an ACP Empower Her conference. So we're going to be talking about resilience and redefining success and just how certain moments in my life and my career have kind of pushed me really to redefine what success means, especially in a professional way.
Excellent. And Josh, I know you mentioned you're going to University of Chicago. And have you kind of narrowed down your, whether that be what your major is going to be, or do you have a clear vision right now, or where are you at?
It's a really good question because I've actually done a little bit of planning for my classes soon. But as I stated earlier at the start of the podcast, I do think that I would love to go into something similar to Amanda's career, something that's a little more in the social work, but still related to STEM because, like I said multiple times, I have that drive for STEM. I stand for all that it is, but still not sure what major in specific I want to go into based off of just the core classes that I've been planning to take recently. I've done like a lot of stuff that has to do with like humanities, civilization, like development of areas. So I would really like to work somewhere specifically that has to do with developing communities, somewhere within that realm, but still trying to figure out what specific major I want to do at the end of the day. And then possibly after that, look into graduate school as well.
Well, this is the perfect setting and time, Josh. If you have questions that you would like to ask Amanda,
Yeah.
I mean, this is the opportunity to do so, and vice versa. Amanda, if you have questions for Josh or for Arlyn and myself, this is the moment I'd like to kind of open it up for everyone.
Yeah, sounds perfect. So I remember, Amanda, you were talking earlier about being not so rigid as a person, and that made me really think, as someone who's had this drive for STEM, has thought they wanted to go into engineering from such a young age. Was there any like defining experience, moment, or like thought in your head that made you realize like that it's okay to accept your other skills, even though it might not be something that you directly wanted to do originally?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. And I would say, so I'm really passionate about supporting women, and
Mhm.
that has been like a focus for me, I would say. And I'm also, really passionate about helping children and families just navigate like the complexities of life and navigate traumatic experiences, kind of what's next, healing, all that kind of stuff. And that's the social work background, I think, really helped with that. But I realized that it's very heavy work. When I was doing direct service, when I was leading anti-sex trafficking initiatives, it can be really heavy. And the way I've kind of navigated that is that I still care about these issues. I care about supporting people who are unhoused. I care about, helping folks with affordable housing, and other different things that I've worked on in the past. So for me, I've reached out to organizations. I'm serving on the Dallas Habitat for Humanity board, getting involved. So with my passion for women, I serve on the Texas Women's Foundation. They have a 19 committee. So for me, it's, how can I still be a part of those conversations, still help and support what's going on in the community I live in, but not it doesn't have to be my 9 to 5 per se. And I think that
Mhm.
actually opens me up where I'm less, like stressed because I don't feel that pressure of I have to meet these goals and deadlines like you do when you're running a program or working for a program. You feel a different sense of pressure. But this way, I'm able to use my skills and advise a little more on a board level and really support the organization through my network, but still be involved. And
Mhm.
so, and then I get to do, learn about renewable energy and do really cool stuff in my 9 to 5. So it's just, there's different ways to still nurture your passion, but it doesn't always have to be that 9 to 5 thing. You can find that job that you want to do that's, fulfilling in a different way and challenging you in a different way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully
I
that's
think
helpful.
also, one thing that I will say to keep in mind, maybe what you're gonna do in the future isn't even created yet. And so I know it's crazy, but so many times I've had a job that I didn't know existed.
Mhm.
And also I've had opportunities where they've created a job for me. So those opportunities sometimes are not, we don't even think about them. So just do what feels right, what you love, and that's gonna lead you to opportunities, maybe a job, or create a job that you didn't even know. For example, like your STEM passion and your policy passion, and somewhere in the middle, that's gonna lead you to this perfect position that you didn't even know existed, and it probably doesn't even exist right now, so.
I so agree
So
with
just,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, it like, that's what kind of, I mean, your positions and the career choices you've had, they're so diverse. And yet you landed in this place that, fuels your passion, but also allows you to still participate in other things that are important to you, so.
Yep.
Food for thought.
Oh, that's a great thought.
Yeah.
No, I love that advice that you shared, Amanda. It's true. I think all of us, or many of us, can relate where we are very passionate about certain causes.
Yeah.
But yes, in it doesn't matter, the political climate. A lot of these issues, right? They transcend, any administration. And so but those are, they're issues that are heavy, right? That they can be really heavy, and if it's depleting your energy, then it's not allowing you to show up the way that you would like to show up. And so that's what I was thinking in the back of my mind, hearing Amanda, is that that's what how I felt. I was like, yeah, you're able to show up maybe in a better version of yourself when your energy isn't completely consumed by it on a day-to-day basis. So that's something that even for myself, I will be taking that advice with me. Any other questions that you guys might have? I know we always like to have you guys give advice to other students, listeners out there. I feel like you guys have been already sharing just
Yeah.
a wealth of knowledge and advice, but anything else that you guys would like to get out there to our audience or to ask each other?
Not a question, but I do have to agree with what you said and definitely say that, Amanda, you brought a lot of like wisdom to the table here, especially because you seem to have gone down a path that could look like the future of my path. So it's really interesting to hear the perspective of someone who's more experienced with what I'm going through right now at a young age.
There we go.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I was gonna ask you really quick, do you have a good winter jacket first and foremost?
Of course.
I've been asked that question a little too many times, and the answer is always no.
Oh gosh,
I need
please get
to
on
find one,
that.
definitely.
Yeah. But I would say two things advice wise.
Mhm.
I would not limit. One thing I did, and I think I hear a lot of, younger folks do or new career folks do, is limit the sector that they think is possible for them. I've been in corporate, nonprofit, and public sector government. And all three have incredible benefits. All three are challenging in their own ways too, but I've learned a lot from all three. And so I would say don't limit yourself. I did. I thought I would never be in corporate at one point. I just thought nonprofit or government. But I'm really glad I made the shift. And it was scary, but it's been really cool to kind of navigate that. And I just think makes you so much better at communicating and understanding how to navigate different things too.
Another great piece of advice. One that Arlene and myself have a bit of experience as well is, kind of taking on opportunities with different sectors and different organizations that, maybe at a younger age, we did not think we would have those roles or be in those organizations. But, it's worked out, and I can definitely agree that it's provided a lot of insight and great learning experiences. So.
Yeah, try a little bit of everything, right? Say yes to everything.
Yep. At the end of the day, today's team was versatility. There you go.
Yeah.
And say yes. Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of takeaways from this episode. Thank you both so much for joining us. Thank you, Josh. I'm going to take this opportunity to publicly thank you for all of the help that you've done. Not just joining us here today, but behind the scenes with all of these other episodes. We really couldn't do all of this without your help. I know Brett also was really appreciative of all of your help with Power Jewel. So thank you for all of that. And then thank you, Amanda, for reaching out. I know I can attest that you are great at your job, because that's how all of this started, right? You were reaching out, kind of doing your research in our community, since Leeward is going to start a project here near our community. And so you reached out, looked at our organization, spoke with Jerry, and it's funny. I remember you mentioning the telemarketer comment. Something that Jerry and you both talked about on that phone call, because he for a moment did think it was going to be some sort of scam call, but we were so thankful that he answered, and that it led us to connecting with you and with Leeward Renewable Energy. We're really excited to see how the project moves forward, and I'm excited for both of you to connect and stay in contact, because I hope that this will be a good opportunity to kind of learn throughout your career path and process. So thank you both so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. And then just for our listeners out there, just make sure to follow us on the STEM Road podcast. You can listen and watch the podcast on YouTube. You can also listen to it on Spotify and Amazon Music. Please also go ahead and follow Elevate Southwest on all of our socials. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and X. If anyone is out there and interested in sponsoring or helping us continue all of these programs here locally, please contact Maria Ortiz, our Executive Administrative Assistant, at maria@elevatesouthwest.org. And well, I guess that's trying to see all my pinpoints here. Jerry usually handles the intro and the closing, so this is new for me, but I hope that everyone enjoyed this episode, and we will see you on the next journey on the STEM Road podcast.